Welcome to the Hot Rod Hangout podcast.
Whoop whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And tonight we got a special guest, Rob from Racing for Last. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot, man. Another day, another dollar. You know how it goes.
Are you up to $1 over there in Texas?
I'm to $1. Let me tell you.
We still rubbing pennies together, hoping they make a nickel.
Oh man, shoot! If we fold the dollar just right, it looks like we got $10.
Hey, there you go. So, what got you into this crazy car obsession, man?
Well, it started very young. Of course, might come from a broken home, so dad wasn't around, stuff for that. I had a lot of uncles that were all into hot rods and cars. One of my uncles, named David, always had real nice end hot rods. He had some Camaros, he had some Trans Ams, wrecked them all, of course. But every time a new car came around, it was get in here, come on, let's do this, let's do the oil change, or let's do the plugs, or and I remember breaking down a complete motor with him one evening, and he had it back in the car the next, I think it was like maybe 6 to 8 hours of that evening, and we were out racing the next day. So just it was the beauty of it. Then of course growing up and stuff like that, school got in the way. Everybody started to grow up and got in trouble, this and that, and it kind of just took away from the racing scene and stuff like that. It was more of, I got to get my priorities straight. Let's get stuff together, and then we go from there. And back in 2012 is when I finally started getting. I met my wife. We got married. We had a baby, and it was like, hey, you know what? I want to get some hot rods. I want to build some stuff. And she was like, well, is it going to take money? Yes, it's going to take lots of money, but I'll bust my ass off. I promise I'll get there. I'll do it all. And the main thing for us was she was like, okay, well, you can do it, but I'm not at the bars. I'm not spending or pissing my money away in anything other than what we love to do is, car shows, hot rodding, going to the track, building, breaking, building again. So it's been fun, so, and that's where it's been for the past, time around. We're going to almost go on 13 years now. So it's just been a whirlwind of building stuff and stuff like that. Many things that I've come across the way, from a 1972 C20, C10s. I was a huge C10 fan. And then all of a sudden I saw a 3100 driving down the street one day, and I was like, oh my God, like I got to have one of those.
Oh yeah.
So I went 3 flips until I was actually able to find a body, which at the time was really just a cab for a 5-window. And that's how it started, man. And that's how we got this truck going. And it took me 2.5 years to complete it. And then everything else, man, it's just a blur,
Awesome.
Right.
So what is Racing for Last?
So Racing for Last. So that's a good question. So a buddy of mine who's passed away now, he's been passed for over 4 years now. One day we were at a racetrack here in Texas, San Antonio. It was called San Antonio Raceway up in Marion. And of course we had our cars there, and our cars are not the Buttes. They're not the best, but they're fast, right? So you got to make them look like shit in order to drive. So that way people think this car's nothing. And then we were there. Well, we had, San Antonio's they got a lot of high name clubs here and stuff like that. Some clubs require you to have really fancy, pretty looking cars in order to join their club. Some guys just don't care. They just the camaraderie of just hanging out and drinking a beer and building stuff. And we were at the track one evening, and we saw a group of guys that were getting haggled by another group of guys. We went down there and we stopped that real quick. We told those guys, what I call the square hot rodders, because they're not rodders, but I mean, they're just pretty guys, cruising in real fancy cars. And we told them to cut the shit out, man. And they stopped. They left them alone. Shortly after that, Chris was like, man, you know what? We got to start something that we can bring not just one guy. We can bring them all, from, and I'm talking about that. This is a club, not just a hot rod club, but a car club in general, where you can have, Harleys come in. You can have little guys that want to drive Honda Accords. Did you build that yourself? I sure did. Bring it to the show, and let's just go and rip it out there. And it was mainly for him. So if you look at the logo, where the last is at, it's actually a cancer ribbon. Because it was his last. So it was he's the one that named it Racing for Last, because it was going to be his last ride. And we stuck with it. We went along with it for as long as we could, and then when he passed, I took over, and I just couldn't do it. It got hard for me, and then I just lost my momentum and just lost my drive to want to do anything. Stayed put for a good 2.5 years until I finally said, okay, I'm gonna get a roadster. I'm gonna put it together, and I just went back out and had fun, and then restarted everything again. T-shirts, club memorabilia, merch, and just all kinds of goodies. And I got a good group of guys that back me up on it, very much so. Uh, but for now, we're just trying to stay as small and local as we can be, just so that way I don't lose the focus of what exactly Racing for Less is for us. A lot of our proceeds and stuff of that, they do go to MD Anderson up in Houston, Texas, which is a cancer area out there. So we do a lot of good stuff, and we make sure that we send everything that we can possibly can up there for research and to help the families who have those high expensive bills. So
Very
it's a
cool.
rad stuff, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our anniversary show is the 50/50 for it is for Ryland Strong Network with the
There you go.
childhood
Yeah.
cancer. So, uh, speaking of shows, what's a show that you try to make every year or event?
Lone Star Roundup. Yeah, Lone Star Roundup. We try to make it. Last 2 years we just didn't. The first year we missed out, but we were glad that we didn't go. It poured. It was cold. People were stuck out there for days afterwards out in that field. So we were just glad that, hey, it happens. The other one is the throwdown up in Houston. So in Conroe, that one's always a good fun show, man. The drive is just phenomenal. You take I-10, from here, 4.5. And of course, everybody's got rods. So like my truck's got a 383 stroker in there. I'm maybe about 10, 11 miles to the gun, bro. After that, I got to stop, pull over, and make sure I gas it up. If not, hey, I have a hard time starting it back up afterwards.
Well, I
So
mean, the benefit of hot rods with low fuel mileage is you ready to get out and stretch your legs after.
absolutely, man. They can be really long drives. The truck was specifically built to race out in the track and stuff like that. So going from start to finish, I'd be on empty. So that high end Camry, it just sucks it down, man.
Yeah.
So you see that gauge go from full to just a matter of seconds. So it's always a joyful ride. And of course, we have things that we change out, to make the fuel economy just a tad bit better for the truck and stuff like that when we go out on our cruises. Right now, it's got a 2500 stall converter on it. So again, I mean, it just guzzles and just sucks down that gas like nothing.
Well, what is a show or event that you've never made that you would like to go to?
Good guys, man. Those are some awesome shows up there. Had some guys that were up in the West Coast, and then the ones out in Charlotte and stuff like that have all these really nice shows. And it's always just of trying to get around to being able to make the time and go and do all this. And family first, so that's always a priority, making sure that they're fed, they got stuff like that. Final work, they kind of just like, oh, Dad, what are we gonna do today? And so we always make sure that we're in good hands and stuff like that before I drop some cash to say, okay, we're gonna take a 200-mile trip down wherever, and we're gonna stay there for a whole week. So, and as they get older, we'll possibly be able to do that more. So, but yeah, Good Guys is just a phenomenal show from what I understand.
Well, I would like to personally invite you. Florida has better weather than Texas in January. So,
Oh yeah,
January 4th, Big Daddy Don Garlits in Bellevue, Florida. We're doing our
oh you
anniversary show.
Florida. I will
So,
do my best to be there, man.
so it's all years welcome. We're just trying to grow the car community. It's not a trophy hunter
Absolutely.
show. We're giving away a podcast pick, a lady owned, and furthest driven. So
Nice.
uh, you may have it driving out of San Antonio.
Yeah,
You
I'm
may
pretty
have
sure
it.
from San Texas. Yeah.
I don't know
And
because
trust me, and I would possibly, and I would drive this thing all the way there. I mean, I don't believe in trailer cleaning or doing any kind of stuff like that. I mean, I'm through and through, man.
Well, I know
So,
we have a guy coming from Rockwall, Texas, with the other
well,
podcast.
yeah, it's a little further. I believe it's.
It's like
I think I
north
want to say
up yonder.
Northwest or something
Yeah,
like that. I think, yeah, yeah. He
and
might have it better than I will. That's for
but I
sure,
don't know if
man.
he's bringing a hot rod. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true.
and then I don't know if you're familiar with Gasser Garage, but the Neighborhood Nightmare. He's bringing his
Hmm.
girlfriend's 53 towing his digger dragster. So
Oh, that's gonna be nice. That's gonna look really cool,
yeah,
man.
so he's coming out
I
of
look forward.
Missouri. So there'll be there's a couple people that are making some trips. So
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Some good trips, man. Yeah, for sure. It's don't know what the future holds us now. We're just still trying to get through Thanksgiving. So and down here in Texas, everybody freaks out like, "Oh my God, it's Thanksgiving!" They're already putting Valentine's stuff out, and it's like, guys, we haven't even gotten through Christmas. Like, come on.
yeah, this is our busy season of car shows because like we have Moultrie was last weekend, which is in Georgia. Then you have Turkey Rod Run this weekend, and then Slam Fest that's usually in October got pushed because of the hurricane to December. So December's busy.
Yeah.
It's like, and then our show, and then the weekend after our show is the Eastbound Get Down truck show.
No, that's gonna be cool. Yeah, yeah.
So
That's pretty neat.
we're coming into the busy season, and I'm like, man, I just need to, I'm still trying to get my Model A back together. Well, together, not back together, but
Together, yeah. And I've looked at some pictures, man, and that thing is gonna be rad, dude, when it's done. Let me see if I can kind of turn this around a little quick. If not, I'll just kind of just pull this off, just so that way you can kind of see. Uh, I'm to turn it around, but I will throw it this way. So this is mine,
ooh,
1930.
very nice.
Yes, sir. So, and you can tell that I got a Dukes of Hazard this thing. So, I mean, that I love to jump in and out of this thing. When I found the body, the doors were in decent shape, but every time I turned the corner, they would just rip open, and it would just like if I would just roll out of there. You know what I mean? So, and it's nice, man. I like to cruise it and stuff like that. This probably gets a whole lot better gas mileage than the truck. It's a 350 small block, so it looks big. It sounds big, but it's not that big.
Yeah, well, that's
They
the
gets me
Model
to and
A.
from. I enjoy.
That's the Model A. It's a small block. I didn't go bigger. It does have a big mother thumper cam because I wanted it to sound nasty.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's got to sound nasty, man.
And now that
That's the beauty about these
now that I
cars,
set the
though.
motor in there, I'm like, oh, I have three big 97s on a three deuce big 97s, and I was gonna put that on it because it kind of looked old school, but now I'm
Hmm.
like, it needs something taller. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I can't
Maybe a
afford
maybe a small supercharger or a
I
blower of some sort.
blower's not in the budget right now, but I might be able to sneak a tunnel around.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's even
So
better. So with the roaster, man, I'm always on the hunt for a nice flathead, but they got the different ones down here. A lot of them use those old B24s. They're slow. They're not fast. It's maybe, I think, what, 125 horsepower or something like that. So I would have to get a real fancy transmission just to get the speed up on the highway. So uh, it's a no-brainer, man. Like you definitely got to go with something that's a little bit more modern just to have it to
well,
get you from point A to point B.
nothing sounds as good as a flathead,
Yeah.
but it is the most money you will spend to go slow.
Yes.
It looks good.
Absolutely.
It looks
Yes.
good. So
I have found some real decent ones down here, man, and they all go for like a good 27, $3,500, and for some it's nothing, but to others, like, okay, well, what type of transmission do you want to roll with this? You can't put an overdrive on the flathead because then you burn the bearings out on it. And there's just a lot of play that you have to really watch out for when it comes to those. Now, later on, if I want a time period correct, the whole works, then it'd be nice to spend the money, but I think they'd be more of like, I'm just going to cruise it around the street or in the neighborhood. And then from there, I'll have to probably trailer it somewhere because I would never make it in time.
yeah. Yeah, I thought about going flathead with the Model A, but then with everything else, I was like, I'm kind of strayed so far away from a 30s car. It doesn't make sense because 14
Right.
inches of kick up in the front, 18 and a half in the rear, hidden air ride front and rear. So there's actually air
I mean,
suspension on the front of that car, which is not visible. So
yeah. I had so when I finished this, I originally plumbed it for the airbags for air ride. Um, and then I was noticed that the ass end of it was just I wasn't gonna ever bottom out. So what I did is I ended up changing it to some QA ones, 250 pounds in the back. On these roasters and Model A's, there's no ass,
yeah,
nothing. So I mean, if you're not careful, you're gonna lose it quick, you know. But the same, yeah. So so I went ahead and did that. Um, there's always something that you can change on these cars, man.
oh
It's
yeah.
just more of the time, the money, and what you want to do with them,
Well, they're
for
never
sure.
done.
Yeah, yeah.
You just get it
But that's
close and
like,
driving, and then you go enjoy it, and then you see something else, and you're like, okay, let me start saving up for that. You know,
just start saving it for that. Yeah. So that was the same thing with the truck. We finished the truck. I did all the wiring, and I think it was maybe, oh shit, man. I think I remember I started at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I got all the way. The hardest part for wiring in 383 was getting all the signal wiring correct on these temperature to the gauge, for your kick down and for all the
yeah,
works on it. And it took hours to be able to perfect it, to say, to where that way everything worked correctly. Because it wouldn't shift out of the gear, it wouldn't move. It's got the safety neutral on the 700 R4, and it just wouldn't do what I was wanting it to do. Finally, 2 o'clock in the morning came. It was perfect. And instead of taking it all apart again to reroute everything to make it look pretty, I put wire loom on that thing. I ducked the shit out of that thing back on the frame, and I was like, boom, we're out. Took that thing for the longest good cruise, man. It's just been a blast.
yep.
So, uh, so now that we're in a decent spot, I've worked on my door panels again. So I finally got those wrapped, in the vinyl that I want. Waiting for materials so I can do the headliner, the visors, take the seat somewhere so I can get that reupholstered again because my keys I've already torn the shit out of that thing, man. From getting in and out of it. But it's definitely not a show truck, but it's definitely a fan favorite out here in San Antonio, especially more so in the hot rod, the what I would say your rat rod hot rod. You have your classic cars, you have your pretty hot rods, and then you have the hot rods. That a bird can shit on it. It looks great. A bird just took a shit on it, man. That's awesome. And it's win trophies, and stuff like that. So it's just the fun stuff, man.
Yeah, that's so we have the 54 that's now Ashley's. It was bought as a car to, you know, get her interested in cars and, kind of get let her experience pulling in somewhere and the questions and with a 50s car, everyone identifies with the
Uh-huh.
car, whether they owned one, whether their parents had one, so even if you're not a car person, you identify with the 50s cars. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. My wife, she comes out in the garage sometimes, and when we could be out at shows, and they'll come and they'll ask her, and she's got to run wherever I'm at. She's like, "What? What's the size of the motor again? What do we have in it again?" Like, let me write it down for you real quick, and you can go and tell all these people, and you can make it look like you know what you're talking about. But she enjoys it, man. My kids, they love it. They enjoy it, and it really keeps the mental state. Like for me, it really helps decompress. I come in the garage and I mean, shit, dude. Even if I'm just standing here, just staring at them for a good 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, all right. I come back to the world now, and I'm like, you got this, Rob. You did this. You can
mhm.
continue doing this. You're doing it. Just go back in there, ignore your kids, and just think about hot rods all day and all night. So, but yes, the 50 errors, those are very popular. 60s, 70s. I mean, the list goes. I mean, the more so it's a woman. What group out there is gonna be like, oh my God, a woman came in and she's driving a 50, Bel Air. Holy shit. They don't care what it looks like. The fact is that a woman's enthused and she's into it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Then the things that you can teach the kids, teach the women. Yeah. So I have a friend. This is going to be another girl. I'm going to throw her out there. Her name is Kelly Latour. You probably know her on Instagram as Kelly Builds.
Yes.
Okay, she's going to be the next one that I would definitely say you got to go out there, see if she'd be interested in getting that podcast, because that girl is amazing. What her and Travis do out there where they live, man, is just awesome. The fact, again, she wants to get into it. She wants to share the same extreme hobby of what her husband does, and it's been working out for them, man. So you never know. And then, of course, with you guys with your podcast, I see this thing blowing up like no tomorrow, man. So got to be ready.
Oh, it really is, and it's kind of funny. When we started this back in January, it was me and a buddy and Ashley, and it was okay. We're just gonna talk. We bullshit about cars anyway, so we're just gonna talk about cars, and we'll record it. And like my mom and dad will listen. Like maybe we'll get like 5 people to listen to every episode that isn't us, and everything will be good. And then it was probably 3 weeks in, and Hometown Hot Rodder, which is out in Texas, I've been a big fan of him, for a long time, and he just out of the dark, wrote us and was like, "Hey man, you're killing it. Like, this is what we wanted to do, but we're just too much of a shtick to do actual car stuff. So they're more comedy, less cars. We're more cars and less comedy." And
right.
And they got behind us, and with them, we just reached. Actually, we're 1,100. We have over 1,100 followers on Facebook.
All right, yeah.
And we haven't been doing this. It's not even a year yet. It's like 11 months. So it's just crazy the amount of people. Or I'll look at downloads and I'll be like, oh, people actually like listen to us. This is kind of weird. Like, and it's awesome, but like, I never thought like we'd have merch. Like we have hats and shirts, and like we get identified going somewhere, and it's like, wait a second. Okay. Like, and yeah. I'm horrible at remembering people's names. So like, I feel so bad. But then it's like, well, have I met you yet? No, probably. I don't know. But you see my face every Tuesday, so it's like, and with going to these shows and everything like that, it was, if this just affords us the ability to talk to cool people, we've met so many quote unquote friends that I've never physically met. I needed a part for the 54, couldn't find it. I put it out, hey, I'm looking for this on a podcast, and Randy Jackson from the Gastro Garage calls me. He goes, hey man, I take all that shit off, but I think I got one behind the garage. I'll see if the bolt's there. Okay, cool. Yep, it's here. What's your address? I'm like, what do I owe you? Nothing. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get back with you.
But same thing. So when I took the roaster out for a car show, and I took a left turn, and the steering box took a shit on me. So I was like, oh, I took it apart. I remembered exactly what it was out of. It was out of a 1972 Corvair. So I was like, okay. So I went everywhere, looked everywhere, shot it on Facebook, Instagram. Anybody have a Corvair, gearbox that I could buy off of, stuff like that. Nobody had one. Of course, those cars, they're just so old now that you can find a decent one, and you're lucky if it turns right and left, So a guy finally out in California with Corvair Performance Parts reached out, and he was like, hey man, I got some real nice fancy stuff here. It's been upgraded. Gear ratio is a lot better. It's all manual. You'll be able to turn full right, full left, and it's never going to break on you again unless, like you really bust ass on that thing. So he sent it out, man, and I was just like, I put it on the next day, man, and it's been cherry ever since, man. But that's the beauty of it, man. The car community, it comes together, and that's what I miss the most here in Texas, especially in San Antonio. It's grown so much, but again, everybody breaks off into different kinds of groups and stuff like that, and it's real hard to keep everybody together. For the same thing, just for the love of the hot rods, for the love of cars, and just general. Any enthusiast again. I've had guys that are in lowriders. They're like, "Hey man, can we cruise the streets with you? Let's go." We went down the river. The river one. We did the river rod run 2 weekends ago down in San Marcos and all that. So we go down the river and up Austin. You take the turn around. You come back down. It was pretty neat. We had some good some lowriders out there. With their hydraulics and. And those guys, I mean, I don't know how they keep their stuff together, dude. My shit would have already broke.
The Model A almost ended up on hydraulics. That was.
Well, I mean, that would have been interesting to see, man. Some Model A hopping up in the streets.
Well, it wasn't gonna hop. So I went to school with a kid, and I was in high school around like the mini truck like glory days.
Yeah, mini trucking's right. Yeah.
So everything anybody around us had was air ride. Everything was on air. And he had probably one of the coolest hard bodies in this high school parking lot. Aired out, Cadillac rims, same lug pattern, So, clean truck. Well, then he went out to Arizona, so when he come back, he's got a Passat on juice, and I had reached out to him and I was like, "Hey man, I'm thinking about doing this Model A, but I want to hide everything. Like I don't want, when it's laid out, I don't want anybody to know it's got air ride. I just want them to have to try to figure out how it got there." And he's like, "Okay." I'm like, "So I want to do air ride." And he's like, "Man, you don't want to do air ride." And I was like, "But I do." And he's like, "Well, what about hydraulics?" And I was like, "Oh man, like it's rough." And he's like, "Nope." He's like, "They make accumulators." And he sent me a video of a full-size truck hitting a speed bump at like 45, and the truck never moved. It just ate the bump. And I was like, "Okay, well, but how are we going to hide it?" He's like, "They make cylinders that look like shocks." He goes, "You literally just mount it where your shocks go on the front end, and you have hydraulics in the front." I'm like,
"You have hydraulic." I love hydraulic stuff. I think it's very interesting how they put that stuff together. It's interesting how you put bag stuff together. It's just the intrigue. It's the whole, how do I want it? What is the geometry going to be like? Do I want this here? Do I want that there? How high do I want to sit up? How low do I want to go? Hydraulics, I've seen many cars burn to the ground.
Yes.
So that's always, that's a big negative for me. But as bags, I'd rather do it with the busted bag riding sideways halfway home, 250 miles or so until we're able to get a new bag on there. But, it's the price to pay when you got stuff like that, so.
Well, and that was kind of what it came down to. Was in the end, I was like, "All right, well, can you help me?" Because I don't know anything about how many pumps and dumps and batteries, and I don't know any of that. And I was like, "So could you help me?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll get together." And I'm like, "Okay." Well, then we never could, like, he was either free and I had something to do, or I was free and he was gone. So I'm like, well, I know air ride, so I guess it's getting air ride. So
air ride. And using some Optima batteries, man, those things are phenomenal as well. I wouldn't use the conventional battery for even on a hydraulic system. I wouldn't use. No. I would definitely go with Optima and make sure that it's got the power it needs to have to handle not just, for what you have under the hood, but for everything that rides in the back, Yeah,
everybody out there, not everybody, but a lot of people in Arizona, he was in Perfect Poise. A lot of those setups are just like park and chill. Like they don't hop. They're not slow, but they're not like super fast. So you can actually
they're just made to just raise and look the part and then just drop back down to the ground when needed to be dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically, I mean, it looks similar to an air ride system from the outside, but I was like, oh yeah, okay. And then I started looking up prices and I'm like, man, if I don't know exactly what I'm getting and I get the wrong thing, this is going to cost me a butt, So I'm like, 4 bags of 2 compressors and a tank. I got this. Like, there's not much.
Yeah, there's not much to it, man, but good hoses. Always make sure you have good hoses. A lot of people, they use these little 3/4 to 1/4 inch plastic ones, and they're nice, and they're, but as soon as it gets brittle, it gets cold, it gets wet. I mean, they get hard, they break, and then you're losing air like no tomorrow, So pumps, have a nice relay on everything just so that way nothing heats up. Always throw a fuse on there. If it pops, oh, it's just the fuse. Put the fuse back in there, and it's a done deal. Uh, but so, let me ask you guys. So, how did you guys get into the car world, growing up and stuff like that?
So my dad was, I remember going to car shows with my dad, and we're fortunate that we used to have local to us a first Sunday swap meet, and I remember going with dad, and quite a few times it was, hey, go get them their trophy, because we traded cars, and his truck won a trophy, so I'd go up, get his trophy, and hand it to the people that now own it, and they'd go get their trophy and bring it, and so trading and the stuff like that. And then my dad, family life, he made a decision that would take him further away from home to make a living, and the hot rods weren't the daily. So he made a decision to get rid of the hot rods and got something a little better on gas for the hour and 20-minute drive one way. And I got into the dirt bikes and motorcycles, and we built a little 690 8th mile S10, no cage, little warmed up small block turbo 350. Before you could just call up Holly and be like, hey, send me everything I need to put an S10 on with a V8 in it,
Oh, yeah.
So, and, he was working at a body shop at the time, so it had pretty awesome paint job that was sponsored by Overtime. And then girls, and I didn't really pay attention and didn't realize that I wasn't showing the truck as much attention as it needed. And so he got rid of it, and we got into bikes, and for a little while we were into bikes, and I met Ashley, and I told her it was during COVID. She needed toilet paper, and I had some because I was a single guy that lived alone, so I had an abundance. But I basically told her, like, hey, listen, like, I'm not always in the best of headspace, and this little garage area is kind of what puts me back right. So you're more than welcome to hang out, but it's probably going to be out here. And she was like, well, that's cool, because I've always been interested in cars, but I've always been told that I don't belong out here. And I was like, well, your hands are smaller than mine, so you're hired.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of her introduction to working on stuff. And I had a guy I really wanted a Road Glide. I don't know if you're familiar with Harleys, but I really wanted a Road Glide. And I had an Electra Glide Standard that I had bought for my 19th birthday present to me. So
wow.
I had it for, at that time, 12 years, almost 12 years, 10 years, 11 years, somewhere around there. And I really wanted a Road Glide, but I didn't want to buy a new one. Yeah. And that bike's got a little warmed up, got some performance to it. So I didn't want to start all the way back over again. So I went and I had test rode a couple Road Glides, and I come back and the guy's like, how was that? I'm like, it's pretty anemic and slow. And he's like, slow? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, yours is only an 88. I'm like, well, it was, but it's not anymore. And he's like, okay, whatever. Like, we'll ride this one. And it was a brand new, at the time, like a demo Screaming Eagle Road Glide 114, yada, blah, 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 like had all this stuff on it. And I come back and I'm like, that's closer. And he's like, okay, well, let's figure out the payments. I'm like, there is no payments, bud. Like, unless you're going to sell me that bike for what that bike over there is worth, like, I'm not doing it. I said, I'll just convert mine to a Road Glide. And he's like, you can't do that.
Watch me.
And I was like, okay. So I come home and I was talking to her. I said, well, let's start sourcing parts and let's do this. So we did the conversion, and she sat with the Harley Bible on her lap telling me what wires needed to get cut and shortened and what wires needed to get cut and lengthened and where this, connected over here and how to make everything work. And we got it all together and I rode it back up there and the guy's like, "Oh, you found a Road Glide?" And I'm like, "Nope, that's the same bike I rode here on." And he's like, "No way." And I'm like, "Yep, that's the one." So, it was just, that was kind of her like, okay. And then, like I said, the 54, we had sold our house and lived in a camping trailer in my mom and dad's backyard while we were trying to find a piece of property to build a garage/house. And, market in the state of Florida went to absolute ridiculousness. So you can't really find land, couldn't really build. So we ended up just buying something. But in the process, I told Ashley, I said, well, let's go just look for a little car that needs some attention, but runs and drives for the most part. So we had went and we got the car that became Michelangelo, 54 Chevy 210. And, I had to lift it so both of us could ride in it because even with just me sitting in it, it drug. So I raised it up, put stock springs back in it in the front, and it still tucks tire somehow. I have no clue, but and then,
that's still neat though,
And so we went through, did a head gasket or exhaust gaskets because it had a little exhaust leak, and I put a for sale or trade sticker on it. Everything's perpetually for sale. Somebody who has this and they think they like mine better and I like theirs better, let's trade. Or, somebody walks up with a fistful of $100 bills. Well, I guess I'll dry my tears with them, And we had loaded it up to go down to Titusville to trade for a little Ford pickup. And the guy calls me and he's like, "Hey man, I'm so sorry. My wife planned something. I can't meet you." And I'm like, "All right, no big deal." So I unloaded the car. And I was like, it was my day before my birthday. So I was like, we'll go to breakfast for my birthday and, enjoy the car. Well, he calls me like 20 minutes after that. I get the car all unloaded and he's like, "Hey man, she canceled so I can meet you now." And I'm like, "Unless you want to come all the way up here, I'm not trading you." And he's like, "Okay, well, we'll get together." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And so we had went to Ashley's first car show. And as we were pulling in, it's a sea of shiny cars. Michelangelo's original paint. It's got rust. It still has that exhaust leak. It is what it is. So we pull in and this guy whips around from taking pictures of these shiny cars to take a picture of us. And I look over at her and she's got a big old shit-eating grin on her face and she's like, "They just took a picture of us." And I went, "Yeah, that's cool, ain't it?" And she goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "You're hooked." So we just started, and then
yes, very cool. What about you, Ashley? What's your take on the car scene in the car world out there? How are you enjoying it?
Well, I like it. I like it when we get out to the shows and whatnot. It's still, we've been doing it for a little while now, but it's still fairly new to me. So I'm still learning everything, learning the ropes, but yeah.
Well, just always remember that you do belong. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says out there. You belong. My little girl, she's 11. The truck, if something would ever happen to me, or if it doesn't happen to me, it's still going to get passed down to her. But, so she's always with all these ideas. She'll walk around the whole show. She'll ask all the questions. She's just intrigued, and she's very girlish. So for her to be very girlish and wanting to be around cars and knowing cars more than what guys know, it's just like, "Oh, what is she?" She's 11. Like, "Oh man." Like, "Oh yeah, I'm in trouble. I know. Trust me." So it's fun. So yeah, definitely, that's good.
That'll also keep her from being impressed by a V6 Mustang or something, when she gets to high school.
Thankfully, my boy, he's my youngest, my middle son. he's 8 and he's into these Supras, these new Toyota Supras that are out there. And I was like, son, they look nice, but let me show you what this car really is. And he's like, well, what are they? And I was like, what's a BMW? Just hidden with the Toyota sticker on top of it. He's like, no, Dad, they're real Supras. And I was like, no, come on. So I called a buddy of mine. Oh yeah, I popped his bubble like no tomorrow, man. I felt so bad afterwards. He teared up and cried. He goes, well, "They're not real." I'm like, no, they're not real. These are cars. I mean, you take the new Ford Broncos and they're Kia Sportages just dressed up, and
Yep.
you put a Bronco logo on it, and it's like it's the new Bronco, yeah. So I called my buddies up. They have the nice 2 JZs. They have the real 1997 to 98 Supras, and he was like, "Oh my God, these are so much better." Like, yes, they are.
Yes.
So. But yeah, most definitely. And the more important part of it for her is going to be, I don't need her to, and I'm not trying to say being biased or sexist or anything like that, but I don't want someone to come and kind of like her having to rely on any guy afterwards. She can do her own oil change. She can do her own plugs. She can do, anything that she puts her mind to, just as long as she wants to do it. So it's nice, but yeah, I mean, I hear the stories down here too. We get the case, oh, it's a girl coming in. Of course, it's a girl. So everybody wants to flock and they're like, oh my God, what do you know about cars? And then the first word comes out of some of them and you're just like, oh, you're just driving the car. And it's just like, so when you get to hear the woman who actually drives the car, knows about the car, you're just like, oh. Can you sign my truck, please? Can you put your name here or there and, write a book out, please. Tell us how you do it. So,
and we're fortunate. We're fortunate that we have a couple females in our little friend group. Knuckles Novak. Her husband has a '57 Chevy. She has a '55 that like looks bone stock, but they pull a Scotty Sportsman camper with it.
Wow, yeah.
And to see her, she rolled in, we do a monthly cruise in, and she came in towing the camper, and I'm like, what the crap? Like, this is so cool. And then to see her like hop out, and I'm like, oh, that's even cooler. Like,
oh, that's even cooler, yeah.
But they're redoing the transmission in her car right now, trying to get it ready for Turkey Rod Run. Mm-hmm. It had a little 200 R4 in it, and it did not like overdrive. Wow. As soon as it flipped to overdrive, especially pulling the camper, it was. Oh yeah,
I bet you hated it, dude. Yeah. So the wife, we keep looking. I'm always in the hunt for the new next project and stuff like that. So we've come across a couple of Bel Airs, and she's more into the 4-door Bel Airs and stuff like that. And I found some that were just immaculate shape, no rust, no body damage, nothing at all. Not the best looking, but that's okay. So in the process, this is your car. But she's used to driving something that's more modern. She doesn't know what to do if something were to break down and stuff like that. And I get that, but I always tell her, like, you're going to have to just get in there and just trust it. Like for me, building a car, picking the car, it's all on how I feel when I'm in that car, especially if I'm going to go out and I'm going to say, okay, I want to buy this truck. It looks great. I think I would look nice in it, but it didn't feel right when I was driving it. I'm not going to buy it,
Mm-hmm.
So I've always told people, when you build a car and you put a car together, you make it yours. You tell it what to do. The car's not going to tell you what to do. And if if it's able to do what you want it to do, then you already know the car is meant to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, then you don't know what kind of demons are hiding behind that wheel besides you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those. But I'm hoping that she'll come around and she'll give in, and we can probably buy something or find something that she'd be willing to put, some hands on and find something a little small for her. We've always been looking at the wagons. Again, she's into the 4-door stuff, so she always wants to take the kids and stuff like that. So it's good.
Well,
no, she's just afraid.
If you do end up with a if you do end up with a Tri-5 Chevy, I have a guy that has quite a bit of parts, and he is not far from you.
No, that's awesome.
So he has three giant warehouses full of Tri-5 parts.
Really? He's not up in Austin, is he?
Rockwall.
Rockwell. Okay. Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. So, again, we're always in the hunt, man. So it's just really
Yeah.
whenever she feels like she's gonna be ready, I'm ready to pull the trigger for her.
Well, and that's so Michelangelo is Ashley's car. It became her car one night when we were giving it a bath, like one of the 3 or 4 that it's had since we've owned it. It's doesn't, God washes it, and but we were washing it and I'm hosing off the grill and I'm like, this is the ugliest car I've ever seen. I don't understand why anybody would want this car. And she's like, it's got a face only a mother can love, and I like it. And I'm like, okay, well, it can be your car then. So once the Model A gets running and driving, then we'll tackle her car and try to make it a more comfortable cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Mustang 2 front suspension, give her better steering, better brakes, small block or LS, because LS doesn't offend me if it's under a hood. LS in an open
Right.
car, that's a shame. But
And I mean,
unless you're
if
going to
she's
spend the
what
money to dress it up,
yeah, I'm indifferent. I like the LS stuff and I love the more modern motors and stuff like that. But I have passed guys on highways with broken down motors.
oh,
They can't seem to get it back up and running again until the computer guy comes out and takes care of them. I get out of the car, I do a couple of little notches here and there on the carb, and boom, I'm gone and let's go. So if you're willing to learn how to do that and just by hearsay and stuff like that on the car, I mean, I think you could have it down pretty good.
yeah. So, but I want to put something with fuel injection, maybe a vintage air kit, but what the car looks like or the way that it gets done, that's her decision. If she asks my opinion, I'll guide her. But
Well, like you say, the LS motors just gets more modern. She won't have to worry about, high tune stuff like that. But you also have EFI kits that
yeah,
Holly
and that's
Performance,
you could do
out.
you could do a sniper or
Right. Yeah.
or
And those are cool. I've ran a couple of those, and I've enjoyed them. It's really just on performance, I guess you can say. It depends on what you want. If you want to dress it up, then yes, I would go with an LS just so you got that nice motor in there, and there's plenty of room for it. That's even the better thing. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
yeah, it's gonna look. I'm pretty sure it's gonna look great, guys, once it's all done and stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing that Model A finished. Though, I'll tell you that.
Me too.
Yeah, I was looking at those pictures and I was just drooling over it, and I was like, "Look, babe, this is my next project right here." There's down the fields up in Bernie, Texas, man. You drive down those roads and they're just everywhere, laid out in yards.
I don't even want to talk to you in Texas about a Model A. I don't even. Ooh, buddy, I do not even want to talk to y'all about some Model A's. I got a buddy that lives near Austin, and I was on the hunt for a good body. And I knew I wasn't going to use anything but the body, so I was like, if I can just find a good body. And he calls me, he's like, hey man, you still looking for a Model A? And I went, no. He goes, this dude just pulled up here and asked for scrap price. And I'm like, do what? He goes, he drove the car here, and they're driving it to the scrapyard to sell it for scrap. And I went, are you kidding me? He goes, no. And I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Just don't even call me. And he sends me C10 stuff, and I'm like, dude, there's no way. That's a $15,000 C10 in the state of Florida. And y'all just sell them for like pennies on the dollar.
Well, you see, and that's the thing here, and especially in San Antonio. I mean, you have Dallas, you have Houston, you have Austin, you have Corpus Christi, you have the Padre Boys down on the islands further south of us. And these guys, I mean, the majority of the people that live here now were either from somewhere up Southern California, Bakersfield, or East Coast, and they grew up off farm. So, I mean, trucks are dime a dozen. There's fields out there, man, just full of stuff, There's a big event on December 6th, 7th, or the 8th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, yeah. And it's a swap meet up in Fredericksburg, Texas. And they're supposed to have car galore, trades, cars for sale, bodies, trucks, chassis. So I already told the wife, like, I'm gonna clean out my daily pickup, and we're going to take that just in case I find something. We'll just throw it in the back of that and bring it home. But I mean, again, they're everywhere here. You know, the Roadster, like for me, so what people like about the way that the Roadster looks, and her name is Deuce, by the way, and it is just patinaed out. You know, it's the original shell. It's patinaed out. Yes, I got some welds on the door. I mean, I couldn't keep falling out of it, man.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure I was safe. They love that I can, that you're jumping in and out of it. Again, it's favorite. You'll see Model A's and you'll see Roadsters here, but again, you see the prettier ones.
Yeah.
People hate to see signs down here that say, please do not touch. Hey, look, guy, I got that you spent this much money on the paint job, but that little boy, you just ruined his dreams.
Oh, yeah.
So then I go to the next one. I'm like, hey, man, you get in my car. Come on, get in my car. Get in here. You want to turn it on? Turn it on. Do this, do that. And that's what people like. So the people here are, again, very different. You can tour them or you can make them love them, and a lot of the guys down here, they don't know. They forgot what the hot rod scene is like, or the club car, what it's really about, to be honest, But yeah, Model A galore down here, dude, just throwing in people's front yards.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he called me. I have 32 chassis in the backyard, and he called me. He's like, hey, man, I got this body sitting here. It's a 32 coupe. And I was like, okay. He's like, the guy wants like $600 for it. And I went, if you don't buy that, he's like, well, I don't really have any use for it. I'm like, if you buy that for $600, come get this chassis, dude. Like, we'll work something out on the backside, And he's like, well, I just don't know. And I'm like, how? You could add a comma and another zero, and people would be buying them like crazy here.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing with my truck, the 5-window especially. Yes, there are some 5 windows here, but for the cab alone, it was found up in North Carolina. And chassis was an easy chassis to put together. Fenders and everything like that, of course, from random junkyards and stuff like that, putting out and in pieces, dude. I'm telling you, it was just all put together. It wasn't a kit that I found or nothing like that, just all pieces. And you go out there and then you see these guys with these cars and you're like, man, he was like, well, I don't know. I bought it this way. And I'm just stumped to how they're okay with just saying it. Like, okay, what do you know about this truck? Or like, I don't know anything about this truck. It just looked cool. I thought it would get me a girl. I bought it, and and then eventually they're like selling it off. But down here, like these guys, they go through these I mean, dude, just the way I say it, and excuse my French, is they change cars like they change their underwear. If not, they change cars more than they change their underwear, because every single week or something different, they come up with a different car.
Yeah.
What happened to that other car that you have? Oh man, I got rid of it. Some dude came and offered me 20 grand. 20 grand? Like, are you kidding me, man? Like, that was a $50,000 truck. And, and it goes on, man. Yeah. It's insane,
And there's so many avenues of the car hobby. You can be the guy that, has the beautiful car in the garage, takes it out for ice cream with the wife, or, the Sunday cruiser, all the way up to daily. This is my daily.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere in between. And everyone has a place. I'm not a big trophy hunter guy. There are a couple trophies that I do want to win. They're rat rod stuff. But not because I want to win a trophy. It's just I want to win that trophy. A plasma cut apple, powder coated red, white, and blue. I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me show you guys something real quick. This is something that I won. This was from a place down here called Club Humidor. And it was the 10th annual car show. And I took this with the truck. So, then this is the kind of stuff that I like to get here, man. I want something that's homemade, that's going to be awesome. It's not going to be, in a trophy where it's plastic, it's going to break. Give me something. I don't care if it's a wheel, a hub, hubcap, this was last year. It's got a bike rotor on it with a nice And it's just all made, man. And this is the kind of stuff I like to win right here. It's genuine. It's home built.
Yep. That's
Some cool guy out there.
All of our trophies for the hangout are our 3 trophies are made. Our sponsors are building trophies. This was Ashley's first trophy with the 54.
Nice, top 10. Yeah, that's
she
awesome.
Got a top 10. We drove 3.5 hours. The guy at the hotel was like, "Y'all drove that here?" And I went, "Yep." And he goes, "Were you going home?" And I was like, "Nope, going to a car show tomorrow." And he's like, "Oh, you're selling it there?" And I was like, "Nope, I'm driving it home tomorrow." And that car's, like I said, it's not a show car. We drove it. It has 100% success rate so far of getting home.
That's good.
And sometimes it doesn't want to, but it has made it home every time.
There you go.
So when they started, we went up there just to support everybody that was winning stuff. There was no shot. Well, they said our number, and I'm like, that was our number. And then they said her name, and I'm like, oh, there must be somebody else here with that name. Like, it can't be. And the car 54, I was like, oh, and it was, so it was, I was proud. And it was the first car she entered it with her name. I'm like, we should have been doing that the whole time.
And you didn't take it because you were a girl, actually. Okay, you took it because it's a genuine car with genuine people behind it.
Oh yeah.
And Knuckles with the camper won best of show, and another guy that rode up there with us won best wagon. And it's Saw Customs on YouTube, the husband and wife, and they have a 54. So when they were going through it was, hey, this is people that not only are your cars, but like you as a person. Well, me and him had just had like a 3-hour conversation on how he did the front end of that car. And Murray's Rod and Customs makes a Mustang 2 crossmember that uses Silverado control arms. So you get better ball joints. It's not some random Taiwanese crap,
Yeah.
It's easier to align and everything like that. So we were talking about that, and her car definitely needs a C-notch because it hits the we ran new fuel line on it, and I'm like, oh, so that's that clunk every time you hit a bump, the rear end smacking the frame or the hump in the back under the rear seat, but that's all part of it.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is there's parts galore. C-notch, it wouldn't be hard to do. They already got the pre-bracket for you. Just got to weld it, cut the rest of it off, square it down real good, and we get to go. If you're going to go that way, decide retub it, get bigger tires, I
don't think we'll go wider on, I don't think we'll back half it, but probably a C-notch and a nice, clean, simple setup. Hard lines out of the tank into the controller. Something.
Well, how's the ass end on those cars, man? Are they, can you fishtail it real quick if you're not careful? Do you lose control with it, or are you able to?
It has an S10 5-speed and a little inline 6-cylinder, so it doesn't really.
It doesn't push. Yeah, I got you. But that's still neat, though. 5-speed. Wow. Yeah, that's a car.
Well, so it was original 3 on the tree. So it still has the clutch pedal through the floor, but the linkage has been converted to work with an S10 5-speed and an S10 rear end, because when you lower the 54s, it's got the torque tube rear end. So as you lower it, all your fluid runs out and tries to get into your transmission. And
oh no!
So it's got S10 front or S10 rear end, the S10 5-speed, and so it's probably not the best thing to teach her how to drive a 5-speed. As a matter of fact, her first time trying to drive a manual transmission was trying to load it on the trailer. So, because I was too fat to fit out the door, and she could climb through the window. So I'm like trying to
Those are always fun, though.
Yeah, and
the 5-speeds are always fun. they're easy to drive, but yes, I would be scared, especially in my first go around, more so because of the car. You wouldn't be scared of what you're going to break and stuff like that because it's, inevitable. You're going to do it. You're going to
Yeah.
break it. But yes, being very careful with the car. I can understand where it might get a little tough. But I mean, my little one drove, we had the 3-speed, and then I converted the 3-speed from the top down to the bottom with the clutching gauge. So it's welded, it's a little notch that's welded in there. So you're going up and down, back, and then when you stop, you got to put it in neutral, not park. Keep it up in neutral and you hold your brake in, right? So when you get it back down, you pull it back down at first. And she's got it just right, but there was one day where we took off and it was just like in high drive. And I was like, girl, you could smell that clutch just burning, burning. So, yeah, I mean, it really, and then of course, I think for a lot of 5-speed people, it's just riding that clutch the way they ride it sometimes. You can find a stage 2 that's very ass end on it. So when you let go of the foot, it's already getting ready to go drive. All you got to do is just keep giving it gas. And then they have these stage 3s and 4s where you can shift out of second and third gear. But at that point, what are you doing? 5-10 miles, trying to get off the highway and stuff. So,
yeah, she's driven it a little bit and she could, if I forced her to get somewhere in it, if she didn't have her daily here and the tow pig was hooked, well, she'd probably just take it with a trailer. But if she had to get somewhere with that car, she could. But it'll eventually have an automatic in it, and
yeah.
Because even me, I've been driving everything with since I was knee high to a turkey decoy. But even me pulling into like a show where you're on the clutch, off the clutch, on the clutch, off the clutch, I'm like, man, this is tiring. Or you're sitting in traffic, or we had went to the drag strip riot and the line's like a quarter mile and you're sitting there and you're moving up 5 feet at a time. And the car was getting warmer than it's ever been and vapor locking in the carb, and then you stall and now you look like a fool.
That's not fun.
So then you got to argue with the lady because you're like, hey, I have to hit that speed bump at an angle. No, you can go that way. Okay, well, are you going to push me off the speed bump? Because I'm a high center if I go straight across it.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I've done that with the roaster a couple of times. All right, I've had to come in, guys, you got to help me lift it. Let's move it,
Yeah.
It catches it. It'll catch it just the right way, and you can have all the force behind it and it'll move you. But once you get it going, like I had this buddy of mine, he was super low to the ground. He was able to get up, but once he got over that bump, he started noticing that all the oil was trickling down the bump all the way till he got to his parking spot. Half of that, it just whole massive. It was like this big, dude, just from it just dragging on the floor. He had taken a whole piece of that asphalt with him, and it just tore it up, man. So, yeah, I definitely feel you on the angle part,
So, what's the car that got away? Whether you had an opportunity to buy something and just couldn't put the deal together, or a car that, as it was driving out the driveway, you were kicking yourself in the hind end over it.
It was a 57 Apache. And it was just cherry red, man. And it had it was just beautiful. It was definitely high rod. Of course, everything was a bit more modern. I believe, well, at the time, modern for me was, a nice, 454 or something a little bit bigger, 39. And the guy was just like, right here, right now, $5,200. And I was like, dude, $5,200. So, well, I got $6,500 in my pocket right now, but I'm really trying to save money for this project that I got going. I was like, truck, project. And I was like, well, if I get the truck, I have nowhere to put it. I was young, so, I'm still getting ready to go to college. And it was a beaut. And every day that I see a 57, I have to stop and I have to drool over it. Or I'll make sure that we're looking, and it's like I'm not going to show the spare to the wife because the wife's like, she thinks I'm a tough man. But when that 57 rolls by, boy, man, I'm just like, God, no. And then the Apaches are just hard to find here in San Antonio. They're out there, but you get the 55 series, 56, 57s and 58s are the real nice cherry ones, big back window, just the buttes. 59s and 60s, I mean, they don't fancy me. They look nice, but it's not an Apache. The 55s to the 57, 55, 56 to the 3100s, second year with and then you got your higher ones are just like, then you roll into the 60s. But man, at $5,200 and letting it go. And then that guy today always tells me, you should have bought that truck, man. You should have just bought it.
It's even worse when they come back around.
So what happened to the truck was shortly after that I passed on it, he wrecked it, and then he got it rebuilt and got everything fixed up. And it was just like a bad omen, man. Like the barn caught fire, so it burned to the ground. Luckily he had like some type of whatever was insulated in his barn. Body was still good. All the insides was just completely gutted and whatnot. Motor was done, but the body stayed in real good shape for as hot as it got, which was surprising. So he rebuilt it, stuff of that. He gave it away to some kid, dude, like 2 months later after all that happened, man. They just gave it away. And I just went by there one day and I was like, hey, man, so what's up with the truck? He's like, oh, some kid came over and he was like, he really liked it. I was like, you like it? And the kid was like, yeah, I like it. Here are the keys. Call whoever you can call to come pick it up and get it out of here. And kid got it, dude. And I don't know where the truck is today or whatnot, man. But that was definitely the truck that got away for sure.
Unlimited budget. What car?
Oh man, no.
What car or truck
if there
are you
was
building?
Unlimited, oh yeah, I would have to say unlimited. My goodness gracious, I don't even know where to begin, man. I can go as old as, just douching it up and hopping them all day long, going with the '50s era, or I could go with something, as I would have to say a Charger. The Dukes of Hazzard, okay. The original, one of those. I would definitely say that unlimited budget. Those cars today, you're looking at $1 million plus. You know what I mean? And I would definitely, I would probably give these two up in a heartbeat too if I had someone say, "Hey man, look, I got a Charger. You want to buy this?" Absolutely. I can't say it'd be authentic, but it would look nice. Let's see what else. There's other projects, man, that I wish that I could get into. I've always been into drag racing, so I would definitely go with some type of Hemi dragster. But again, of course, that's track. We have no tracks here in San Antonio anymore, so everything's been sold or bought off. The one in Marion is going for like 7.5 mil. Nobody wants to put the love or effort into getting it and trying to make it, bring it back up again. So we get that. The sky's the limit. I think the first thing I would do if I had unlimited budget was definitely build big garage and definitely really get stuff going, help these young kids out. Unlimited budget, I would probably supply and sponsor anything and everything that I can to anybody. Just say, what does your car need? It needs $2,000 worth of this. Here you go. And it's just to bring the car community back together again, man. If you look at my Instagram page down at the bottom, there's a picture of the main gang leader of the movie The Warriors, and in the bottom of the caption it says, come one, come on, can you dig it, suckers? So when I first posted it on there, man, I got all kinds of feedback on that. They're like, well, where's this club going to go? What is it going to do? What does it stand for? And being able to tell everybody exactly what it stands for and what I stand for, it goes miles, man. And it's just, again, trying to pick up where we left off has been rough, and then definitely trying to pick up to get everything back together again. It's been really rough, and it's hard to not have your right hand next to you, and you have your left hand and you have your friends behind you, but you're always missing that one person that was like, you look down, head down, and he's just like, no, let's go. So unlimited, you talk about something like that. If you had that, you can't put a price on friendship, then especially when people become family.
Very true.
So any car, anything, dude, I think it just the enthuse of just having it. Nash Healy's, maybe even a Porsche. Maybe even that brand new Supra that's out there, Sky's the limit, man. You just never know, but it's priorities and stuff like that first, I think. What about you guys, man? What would your one car be if you had unlimited funds?
I'm kind of like you in the fact that I have eras of cars that, like,
Mhm.
I have bucket list builds, and majority of them I'll get to eventually. Um,
Eventually, yeah.
Obviously I don't have the budget to throw and still keep everything I have. So
Oh, yeah.
the Model A is going to get done, and I'll drive it around, and then the price will slowly get back down to what it's actually worth. Because when it first gets built, it's going to be a house payment to buy it, just because I don't really want to get rid of it. And then,
Right.
after some of that new wears off, then, somebody could buy it for a ridiculous amount of money. And then eventually I'll sell it for what it's actually worth to start something else. But probably dream build that I would need an unlimited budget would be like 66 to 69 Lincoln Continental with the suicide doors,
Nice.
black on
Oh,
black,
yeah.
mob steels.
Black on black. Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and shout out to Mop Steel because they have awesome customer service. That was the rims that I had to go with on the Model A because
Mhm.
the sedan body gets wider as it goes up.
Mhm.
So even with a fourth gen Camaro rear end, which is the widest before you get into dually or
Right, right.
1 ton rear ends, the fourth gen Camaro is the widest rear end I could find, and that I could get a matching front end lug pattern. And I still needed like 0 back spacing, and Detroit Steel Wheels, Mop Steel, was the only
Oh,
ones
yeah.
that would cut me a
So
wheel
they go
on
by far.
3 inches of
Mhm.
back spacing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I paid up for it, but
That ain't cheap.
no. Uh, I was really hoping that the front that I was going to be able to get away with using like just a Speedway smoothie or something, and then I was like, when I measured it, I'm like, nah. And there still might be some cutting, and I might still have to run a little bit of a spacer, but the body fits between it now. I just don't know if I'm comfortable with the gap that I have.
Right.
But
Yeah.
so probably a Lincoln Continental. I really like the pre-war and the Apache trucks.
Yeah, those are nice, right? Yeah, 1946 one, man. I mean, if you were to look at those trucks with the open hoods and the sides, that nice 235 in the middle, Buttes. I mean, you just look at them and, they're not, and you go further. So I got a lot of family that originates out of Savannah, Georgia. So when I get to go there, I mean, that's all you see, old farm trucks, so it's like, man, they're just super sexy. Nobody wants to get rid of them because they're handed down from, generation to generation. I respect that. And here you can find them, but I mean, good luck if you have the whole truck, or, you might find a door that's like missing the whole shell or something, you know what I mean? So, yeah, but they're out there, man. But yeah, sky's the limit, man. And I'm pretty sure one day we'll be able to have all the money in the world. Maybe not all of it, but good things come, man, when you just
Oh
put
yeah.
it all together and you keep driving and, just have that, keep that love, man, and then you just never know what could happen. So that's always the beauty part of these car builds and stuff like that, man.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I like about the car community is it doesn't matter what avenue in the car hobby you take, we're all doing the same stuff. Yeah. So, hot rodders call it channeling, mini truckers call it body dropping. We're all switching motors out. We're all, souping motor up, hopping it up, swapping it completely out for something weird, cutting a car, doing what's necessary, customizing interior, wheels. We're all doing the same stuff. We just call it something different.
Right. Yeah.
And also you look at builds differently. So like a lot of the newer stuff, to body drop a newer truck, it already has a solid metal floor. You're just moving the floor up. Model A, there is no floor. Once you take the wood out, there's nothing there. Unless you're going to use the seat pan, and you still got wood that connects the seat pan to the outer rails. So, there's, the mini truck guys are more square. Hot rod race car stuff is more rounded, interior wise. But again, we're all doing the same stuff. And a lot of people forget that, 20s Model A's came with 21-inch rims, 19-inch rims. They had big wheels back then.
Yeah. Gas wasn't a problem back then either, you know what I mean?
And honestly speaking, nothing, in my opinion, nothing looks better than the skinnies on a Model A that, is correct.
Yeah, period correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, there's differences on those. You can get the ones that are just a flat end, or you can get the ones that are all narrowed. Mine are the ones that have that narrow plius on them. So every now and then when I'm, getting on the highway or off the highway, I'm like, oh, man, it almost feels like I'm going to lose it. And again, there's no ass on these things. So you lose it quick if you're not careful. And if you got a heavy foot, you're going to definitely burn through that. So, there's times where I've almost eaten shit with this Roadster, man, and it's just been, a rush. With my pickup truck, 3100, I'm more scared of the truck than I am the Roadster. And the Roadster's got lap belts. If I hit something, I'm flying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so everybody's always asking, like, well, why are you more scared of your truck than you are the Roadster? And I'm like, you know what? I can't. It's like it's on the tip of my tongue sometimes when I'm talking to people about it, and I'm like, I just can't. I don't know, and I gotta lose it. Then I go back to looking at the Roadster, and I'm like, yeah, this is where real men die, man. This is how real men die.
Oh yeah.
There's no saving me for this. There's no airbags are gonna deploy to that steering column. I'm done.
No airbags, no seat belts. We die like men.
We die like men, man. But yeah, so the skinnies are very cool, especially like on these Model A's and these Roadsters, man. 5-inch, 6-inch. I mean, you're crazy. Like, where's the meat on that tire? And people will look at me, they're like, you got your brake drum hanging out like 6 inches here. Where's the freaking tire to this thing? Like, well, that's the tire. Like, that's it right there. You might as well just be driving the wood wheel. You know what I mean?
Yep. You're still stock wheelbase?
Yeah.
Yeah. So short and light in the ass end.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. So I'll get some bigger tires eventually and stuff like that. And I think I'll throw in there a nice 9-inch or something like that. But, as of right now, I just, the way it rides is just so smooth, man. Then again, with the QA ones for the suspension, it's soft. It's not hard. But yeah, when you hit those bumps and you hit those rocks, those loose rocks ends and stuff like that, man, you're like, you start to shake everywhere. And, if you're not holding that wheel tight, man, you're going to lose it. So it's scary, but it's fun.
Yeah, I got to run cow steering on the Model A because of the suspension, obviously. And that's what I was talking to a guy on the ham. Matter of fact, I created a login just to be able to message the guy about he made cow steering kits. And you use 70s Mopar box, which I have, and then you just mount his the outside.
Just set up right to it.
I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, well, could you make me one? And he's like, absolutely not. And I went, what? He goes, you're about a year late. He goes, I was given so much shit on here for saying that cow steering works that it's not even worth me arguing. And I'm like, well, this is in messages, so no one's going to see that you did it for me. Please make me this.
And you're willing to pay to have one made specifically for you.
And he goes, I'll give you the measurements. He's like, you can cut it out. And I was like, I'll take that. Okay. He goes, now, if you want a sand cast shell for the arm, he said, I'll sell you that. And I'm like, well, if you're going to send me that, you might as well send me the whole thing. But And I get it. He just got flamed, so many times of saying like, no, it actually can work. You just have to take into consideration what's going on.
And then that's the thing, dude. I think that these guys, some of these dudes, so like, I go through messages a lot with Matt from Iron Trap Garage, and you know who that guy is.
Yes.
And he's just always so friendly and just always willing to speak about what it is. And one day he said, man, it doesn't matter what kind of equipment you got. If you can make that thing work, it's gonna work. So just putting it together, if it's half-assed, at least you have the idea of how you want it to set up and how you want it to look. After that, you can find what you need to have. And a lot of these guys out there, man, they'll either water jet it in pieces and put stuff together, or and then like the Roadster. I went with the bottom piece for the steering, especially for the Corvair box. It used to come out from the side, right under the column, which I thought looked badass. I was like, man, this is so sick, And then just eventually, after a little while, I just kept noticing I kept getting hung. Well, why do I keep getting hung? People are always there, and they look at it and they're like, "Oh man, that's a Corvair steering box." Like, yes. And they're like, "Well, that's junk." Like, well, and then it's okay, but this is my car.
Yeah,
I put it together. Thank you. So yeah, man. I would never let anybody tell me. And then again, I get critiqued all the time, and I just kind of look away and just say, well, thanks, man. I appreciate the feedback. I'll keep that in mind. Go from there.
Well, that's like the guy with I don't remember what car it was, but the chopped custom that was at SEMA. And he used Speedway sells, I think it's American Wire, sells a wiring harness that's the traditional like woven wire.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't hide it. Like it comes out the firewall through a grommet, and he just ran it over with little tiny zip ties down the fender to the fan to this headlight to that headlight. And they're like, why didn't you hide that? And he's like, because this is how it would have come from Chevrolet or from whoever, the OEM.
Or, yeah.
This is how it would have ran.
Was like that. Absolutely.
They didn't hide it. They're like,
no, not at all.
And I was kind of like, everything else on the car was like so sick custom that it didn't need. But that was like the cherry on top, because I was like, that's actually cool because, like you said, you run wires and wire loom it, put some black tape on the end so it doesn't come off, and you move on. So for him to take the time to make exposed look good, I'm like, that's actually not a bad idea.
No, and I would totally pay for something like that as well. For the way that harness goes today, $475 to $500.
Yeah,
totally pay for it. Noble Speed, they also do wire looms, the originals for like your spark plugs and stuff like that. I mean, dude, you can't. Wow. And then for the price on that stuff, you want to do it. Yeah. You're like, I just want to. And again, when a guy sees a fixed up car, and I see a car that's just halfway done, I'd rather go with the halfway done car than the car that's completed, because ingenuity, man, your artwork, this is art that you're putting together. This is your canvas. You're going to build it the way you want to build it. You're going to make it look the way you want it to look, and it's yours. And if somebody has a problem with it, well, then, obviously, then they can just keep on walking and go down to another car. And, but yeah, dude, this stuff today is just, it's insane, man. And again, I think, if you were to have unlimited funds, sky's the limit. Yeah, we'd build crap all day long and hoard parts and pieces and this and that, and buy a tool shed with all kinds of stuff in the back. You know what I mean?
Well, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's trying to get into the car culture?
Be your own, really. Just be you, be genuine. I don't think, again, clicks. I don't do clicks. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do the right thing. Anybody that walks over and says, hey man, look, I broke down, I don't know what to do. Well, let's go. Let's get it done. So really it's just not giving up. Critiquing is going to be everywhere. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it can really, just not motivate somebody. So it's really just on the person. But the best advice I could do is just continue to build. You break it, have fun breaking it, rebuild it, put it together again, go back out there and break it again, dude. So yeah, that's nothing fancy here, man. So other than just don't give up what you love to do.
All right, baby, hit us with the dates.
Well, we have Turkey Rod Run going on this weekend. And then December, we have our cruising on the 15th at Chili's. And then that just rolls us into January 4th. The hangout at Don Garlett's Museum of Drag Racing. All vehicles are welcome. There's going to be podcast, sponsor, and car club picks. Food and merch vendors, raffle. We are going to do a 50-50 for the Ryland Strong Network. Pre-registration is only open for a short time. December 1st, that closes. So be sure to pre-register at hotrodhangout.com. It's the only place to pre-register. And all pre-registered vehicles will be receiving a gift bag with goodies and merch inside.
Hell yeah.
Thank you again for the invite. And hopefully down there and I can meet you guys.
Definitely. So before we run through our sponsors, is there anybody that you would like to shout out?
Kelly Latour again from Kelly Builds, for always being motivated as a female, going out there and doing what she feels she loves to do, more so with her husband. I think, that's just an amazing thing. We definitely need more women out there to show this younger generation that women can do almost anything us guys can do. Again, I'm not a sexist kind of guy. I think a woman should be everywhere a guy can be, not just in the kitchen or behind, closed doors. Speedway Motors for sure, Summit Racing here in Texas. All the guys, Alamo Speedway down here in San Antonio, Performance Shop, Austin Speed Shop mainly. Those guys are phenomenal with their builds over there. Bob Bleed, if you hear this, man, come back soon and let's get some shit done, dude. Other than that, man, that's pretty much it for me.
Cool. Well, make sure you go check out BP Customs on Facebook.
Check out Throttle Addict using code word Hot Rod for 15% off.
Check out Johnny Jalopy Hot Rod Art on Facebook, YouTube, and JohnnyJalopy.com.
And be sure to go visit Low Income Clothing and Low Income Photos on Facebook and Instagram.
And also Bromaghan Media.
Yes.
Make sure you check out Wrenching for the Future, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Trying to get shop class and all those technical classes back into high school where they belong. And also, make sure you go show Ty Blends with Top Notch Barber Studio some love on Facebook, Instagram, and you can book an appointment on Booksy.
Sweet. And then we got to give a huge shout out to our food vendors that are coming to the hangout. Rat Rod's Woodfire Pizza. Check them out on Facebook. They got awesome pizzas like the Nitro Supreme, Rat Rod Supreme, and a Build Your Own. Shout out to Donut Envy of Gainesville. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook. They've got delicious lemonade flavors and mini donuts. You can't go wrong there. And last but definitely not least, Rudy's Delicious Dogs. You can usually find him at the Allstate Insurance in Bellevue Monday through Friday, and he has got a dog, chip, and food, drink special.
And looking forward to having them all at the show.
Heck yeah.
So till next time, guys, get out, drive your shit.
See ya.
Later.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Thank you.